For a lot of other problems like viruses, bacteria, nematodes, and insects. So integrated pest management is learning how to control all these problems and manage them in such a way that doesn't make other problems worse or doesn't create more problems. I'm sure you guys have heard plenty of stories where people will release a beneficial insect with the hopes of taking care of another insect, but then that beneficial just takes over and then you've got a bigger problem. So integrated pest management is learning how to work with all your problems and manage them in such a way that you can keep them within the right threshold level to still be profitable with your greenhouses. Now over here in these left-hand cages is the leaf miner fly. It's the most detrimental insect we have here in the greenhouses. So go ahead and step up there, take a peek. Very small little black bug, looks almost like a gnat. That's how small it is. But it actually is a fly, and you guys will probably just see it flying around a little bit, maybe on the... Make sure everyone gets in here. So like I said, this is our creative greenhouse. We also lovingly refer to it as Willy Wonka's vegetable garden. But basically what we're trying to show here is you can still grow plants in a lot of different growing systems as long as you meet the basic needs of the plant. So with hydroponics, all the nutrients come through the water compared with your conventional farming and gardening where all the nutrients come through the soil. So anything that gets watered in any of our greenhouses is actually a nutrient solution. Now kind of a spin-off of hydroponics is aeroponics, which we have over here with our squash and papaya conveyor system. Basically they'll move along that conveyor and we've got a little slit cut in the top, and then in that tunnel where those roots are, they're just constantly getting misted with the nutrient solution. Then kind of by the canal over there we've got a little section cut out so you can see how the roots are kind of starting to develop, and if you guys went by on the boat you might have noticed that as well. Now this is kind of a high-risk system. Basically, if it shuts down, we've got about an hour to react, just because when it starts to get warm, there isn't any media around those roots to hold in any of the moisture. So we usually keep a pretty close eye on it, but it looks fairly pretty, so that's why we have it. Now there's one exception to Rule 1, which was not touching the plants. This is the only plant you guys can touch. This is Stanley, the sensitive plant. So if you guys need to get it all out of your system, just go ahead and touch it. See what happens. He's not going to hurt you. Any break? But basically all it is a fish tank, and we cut a piece of styrofoam for the top, and it's got nutrient solution in the bottom with a little aerator to kind of keep that solution churning, get a little bit of oxygen to the roots. And then we've got little holes cut in the top of the styrofoam, which is where we put those rock wool cubes. Now rock wool, again, a volcanic rock, it's kind of like your fiberglass insulation, but it's packed a little bit tighter. So again, great at holding water, and that's actually how we germinate all the seeds. So after the seeds germinate, we can break those cubes apart and transplant them into a lot of our various systems. So that's kind of what we did here. But very easy system to maintain. You guys can see how those roots just kind of grow their way down into that nutrient solution. And you can grow a lot of different plants this way. We call it a raft system, and you can grow quite a bit of lettuce on a raft system as well. But I mean, tomatoes and your vine plants, you can let them grow along the ground or train them up with strings. But all different sorts of things you can do. And if that's a little too fancy for you, we basically got the basic bucket version right down there on the ground. Same concept, but instead of a fish tank, it's just a simple bucket. Now if you want something a little fancier, we've got the homeowner's version of the Vertigrow up on the counter there. Basically, we've got your nutrient reservoir in the bottom, pumps its nutrient solution up to the top, and just kind of continually trickles its way down. And on the back of that sheet, it's got a lot of different websites for some different suppliers where you can get a lot of this different stuff, and some of it you can even get at some of your big box stores. So if you guys are interested in hydroponics, you can just Google hydroponics or look at YouTube, or a lot of those websites are going to be a good place to start. So any questions about anything?
I went to a hydroponics store and they had fish swimming in that tank.
Yep.
And that sort of, he gives off nutrients and all that kind of stuff. So that works too, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yep. I'll talk about that a little bit. You guys like cucumbers? You want a snack? Very space efficient, because instead of going out with the plants, we're going up with them. So pretty much everything is trained to grow up on these strings. This is where your cucumbers came from. We've got two patches, one here and one on the other side of the canal. In our peak production, we'll get about 100 pounds of cucumbers per day. So that's how efficient these are. Now, can anybody tell me what this is used for? Any guesses? It's not a rain gauge. You don't get much rain in the greenhouse. That's okay. Good. I'll hold it next to the picture. There. Yep. We got this mold. We can put it around the cucumbers when it's about the size of a quarter, 4 to 5 inches long. Wait a few days and it just goes ahead and grows into that mold. And then when we slice it, we get these Mickey-shaped cucumbers. So even though Mom told us not to, we still play with our food.
Thanks.
It's a lot better than the ones you guys just had. And you can see basically starting out these rock wool cubes. They've got the drip emitters, and then they'll go down to these bags of coconut core, which is just the husk of a coconut. And then we'll collect all the nutrients in the drain, and then we'll just send it off to the drain. Very efficient system because we don't actually have a whole lot of runoff. And also, every time it gets watered, it gets all the nutrients it needs. So we'll work down this way a little bit. We've got some more home vertigrows, some tomatoes we started. Also right here, we've got a home aquaponics system. It's not actually set up as aquaponics, but normally you'd have the fish in the bottom here, and then you'd have the plants. And this is set up on an auto siphon, so it'll fill up, and then it'll siphon its way back down, so the plants aren't constantly sitting in water. Now the reason we don't actually use fish in this system because if we did, we wouldn't be able to spray anything in the greenhouses, which we occasionally have to do. So right now we've just got a wrap system, kind of like that fish tank you guys saw, but this is how we're going to grow some lettuce.
Please keep hands inside
A
your
lot of different ways you can grow plants. Now right over here we've got our strawberries. Delicious little plants.
Don't they need picking?
Don't they need what? Picking? I think they're fine, no worries. But basically the way this works, we've got our strawberry plants growing in our perlite down here. And then right here we've got our drip emitter line that comes out. So again, it's on a timer. Every so often for a specific amount of time we'll water the strawberries. And then in these pipes, that's where the excess drains, and then we can just collect it at the end. Now strawberries are kind of tricky plants. You can over-fertilize them pretty easily. So that's why these will actually switch between water and nutrients. A lot of your commercial producers, if they have strawberries hydroponically, they'll have a blend that's specifically made for strawberries. Whereas here we kind of have to have a blanket solution that takes care of everything with over 150 different types of plants. It's kind of, we have to make sure we have something that will satisfy everything. So these guys will usually have on nutrients for about 2 days. And then we'll put on to water for another 2 days, or depending on how hot it is for the rest of the week or something like that. So we kind of have to know how your plant produces and what, and that's how we'll just go ahead, and that's how we can try to make our plants the most efficient and effective. So right over here, we've got our NFT system, which is short for nutrient filled technique. Basically, we've got this gutter with square holes cut at the top of the gutter. That's where we'll put our rock wool cubes with our germinated lettuce seed. And then what will happen is there's just constantly some nutrient solution that trickles its way down this gutter. Those rock wool cubes are able to absorb any water and nutrients that they need, and then those lettuce heads are then able to utilize it. It's a very efficient system. We've got about 480 heads of lettuce per table, with 4 tables right in this area. So if you do the math, that's about 2,000 heads of lettuce per month. Luckily, we have our Hidden Valley Ranch tree in the next greenhouse. We throw our bottles of ranch dressing there. But yeah, very efficient system. The water's actually chilled because lettuce is a cool season crop. So that's why you guys have any guesses on what the world record for the largest pumpkin is? Any guesses? This is always fun. 600. What are the guesses? Yeah, all I gotta do is throw a number up there.
800.
675, 800, 1,500 pounds, $1, Bob. Whisker over a ton at 2,009 pounds. Sat last fall up in Rhode Island, so. White Atlantic giant, first pumpkin to break that ton mark. It was a white 2,009 pounds.
Are they usable?
Oh yeah, you can use them for pies and all sorts of stuff like that. I don't know, make a carriage out of them. Nope, it's just the variety of the pumpkin. They're just constantly breeding pumpkins for bigger and bigger. So, I mean, I think I've heard a lot of growers, now that they've reached that ton mark for the pumpkin, they're going to kind of start to grow for bigger squash and stuff. But those big pumpkins, they can put up to 70 pounds of weight on per day. That's how fast they grow. Sometimes they grow so fast that they'll actually start to split. So that's why it's kind of a tricky thing to do. Now this pumpkin on the ground here, that's actually Cinderella variety. So of course here at Disney World we grow Cinderella pumpkins. And those are the pumpkins we'll use in our Mickey mold up here. So I had a question about the mold, how long does it take? Basically all we do is when the pumpkin's about the size of a softball, put that mold around it, and after 2 to 3 weeks it grows into that Mickey shape. So we've got a few molds, kind of fickle to use sometimes because you think how much pressure is actually pushing on there. These molds are getting kind of old and kind of brittle, so pretty easy to crack them if you leave them in there for an extra day or so.
What are those?
Those? I'll take guesses on those. We'll work our way around the corner. What do you guys think those are?
Watermelon?
Not watermelon.
Pickle?
I wish they were. They are a melon. It's not too common. I'd be surprised if anyone guessed it. It's actually winter melon. Now they can grow up to 200 pounds. It's a very bland tasting food. Doesn't have a whole lot of flavor to it, but it takes on the flavor of anything you cook it with. So like chicken broth or ham bone or anything like that, makes a nice filler for soups and stews. We got a little picture there of what it looks like cut open on the inside, so you guys can see what that looks like. Now you know what this is? Sugar cane, yep. Sugar cane, it's where you get a lot of your cane sugar from. Also, just trying to use it as a biofuel option because it has quite a bit of energy in it. It's a fairly fast-growing crop.
When I used to work at the small flavor unit, my CNA nurses, they were all from Haiti and Jamaica.
Yeah.
And every day with their lunch, wrapped in a piece of tinfoil was a piece of sugar.
Yeah.
That was their dessert. They would chew on it at the end of lunch.
Yeah. Now, next to the sugar cane, we've got the cotton. You'll notice it's quite a bit bigger than your commercial varieties. The reason for that is they put a growth inhibitor on the commercial varieties to keep it a little shorter, make it easier to machine harvest. However, the only machines we have to harvest here in the greenhouses are the interns, so they don't really care about the size that much. But, bottom two tubes, we got freshwater shrimp, basically they're prawns. They are fairly big, they do get fairly territorial, so we don't stock them too densely. Now right over here, we've got the American alligator. In the late 60s, it was considered endangered, so they put in a lot of effort to bring up the numbers. Worked marvelously, now it's actually considered a pest here in the state of Florida. Depending on the year, there's between 1.5 and 2 million of them in the state. These guys are on loan from the gator farm. We'll raise them till they're about 4.5 feet long, send them back, and then they'll harvest them for the meat in their tail as well as their skin off of their backs for like bell spirits and bursters and stuff like that. But not really released into the wild anymore. You guys bring your swimming suits? Go swim with the gators?
Goes all the way down to the other end, wraps back around. That's how long it is. Oh my goodness. So each one of those pots